This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carannante.
Welcome on into the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carannante. Really thought that we might be live on air today for a firing or trade the day after another debacle against the New York Mets. The Yankees swept in two separate two-game series against the Mets. The home two games didn't go quite as poorly as the road two games, but impossible for any games to go more poorly than those. And it was pretty close with the same two starting pitchers for the Yankees in each series, Luis Gil and Garrett Cole. And the Mets going with the same strategy in both series as well. Two random lefty schlubs. And it worked. Jake Diekman closed out Monday's game. Tuesday's game against Aaron Judge. Got him looking at a fastball down the middle to start the at-bat. Pretty much two of the most upsetting games you could imagine. 2022, the Yankees were walked off by the Mets. Gleyber Torres hit a late home run to tie the game, but they gave it up fairly easily in the bottom of the ninth. I believe Wandy Peralta. And about 3 minutes after that game, we got an announcement that the Yankees traded for Andrew Benintendi. Last summer, All-Star break time, they end the first half with that horrific embarrassment against the Cubs. One of many horrific embarrassments last year, so I forgive you if you don't remember that. But Dillon Lawson fired pretty much right before we were going to go do a podcast, and we got to go, I wasn't prepared for this, but I guess I'll talk about how this guy who completely failed at revamping our offense or communicating offensive structural changes is gone now. We don't have to hear another Dillon Lawson press conference. Off day today. Red Sox series at Fenway tomorrow, in Boston, 3 at Philly. By the way, I was like, well, why wouldn't Philly line up their lefties for us? Because Ranger Suarez is pitching in the series beforehand. All good. Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola, all-star left-hander Christopher Sanchez in the third game. Fuck you, Yankees. Good job, everybody. So 6 exceedingly difficult games following 2 losses to the Mets. If you're going to make changes at the deadline, which you have to because you can't sell, because who would you sell? People out there making legit arguments for trading Juan Soto, but also saying that the Yankees player development sucks. That's my new favorite one. Oh, you got to trade Juan Soto for prospects. Okay, what prospects have the Yankees successfully graduated to the major leagues? None. That's why they stink. Okay, yeah, but trade Juan Soto for prospects? Yeah. Try it again. The Yankees aren't going to sell. They're going to buy, but if they're going to buy, they should buy soon. Or they should fire somebody today, because bar none, going 10-22 after starting 50-22 is the worst I have maybe ever felt about this team's chances. 12-3 loss to the Mets yesterday. They led this game 2-1. Then Pete Alonso homer to make it 3-2. And at the time, I said they're more likely to lose 12-2 than to win this game or ever retie it. Well, joke's on me because they lost 12-3. They scored with 2 outs in the ninth.
Oh.
Good for them. Well, it's absurd to not make changes. It's absurd to not get some new blood in the locker room before 2 big series before the deadline. But so far, 2:04 p.m., the Yankees have decided to be absurd rather than normal. Plenty to talk about from this series if we want to rehash tough stuff. Plenty to talk about moving forward. A lot of deadline buzz and why every Yankee fan should be rooting against the Cincinnati Reds for the next couple days. Plus Alex Cora misery in Boston, and a very funny Yankees trade deadline potential addition emerges in Colorado, who said something very accurate about Reese McGuire. Let's talk about that anyway. Welcome to the show, live every Monday, Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern. You can follow us on YouTube or Twitter, Yanks Go Yard FS. And here, with an ad read and then some fun and some conversation and joy, is Thomas Carannante. As always, how you doing?
Pretty good. Always fun, right? Welcome in, everybody. It's just a joke at this point. I don't know. But DraftKings ain't joking around. They're offering a fantastic sign-up bonus for new users who can place a $5 first bet on any sport to instantly claim $150 in bonus bets. And all you have to do is sign up with the code Yanks Go Yard, the name of the publication. You better believe it. The best part is that you'll receive your rewards even if that first bet loses. Using our code Yanks Go Yard not only gets you these bonuses, but it directly supports the podcast. Adam and Thomas, yanksgoyard.com. Come on, baby. Make it happen. If you've been considering signing up for DraftKings or have any family members or friends who you think might be interested, you make sure to use the code Yanks Go Yard and tell them to use the code Yanks Go Yard in order to maximize these first bets. This offer is only available to new customers who are 21 and older and physically present in legal gambling states. Also legally gambling states.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Please remember also, though, to always gamble responsibly. That would also probably mean most of the time legally. Check the episode description for full terms of the offer to see if you qualify. In my eyes, the Yankees don't qualify for anything. They're not good. It is a miracle. They're still a game and a half back of the Orioles, who decided to flub that series against the Marlins.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a tough stretch as well, but they also have a $65 million payroll. They do not have a $329 million payroll.
And they're a bunch of rookies learning the game on the fly, and you bank on talent over whatever it is that the Yankees have, and you bank on infrastructure, and the Yankees have an infrastructure that does this every year.
Yep, every year. And that's why we're wondering what they're doing. This stretch is not a flash in the pan.
No,
it's gone on for over 30 games.
And who wants to hear about last night? Who wants to do I thought they should have pitched around Vientos when he made it 7-2. No, we just have to talk about trends and trades. That's all we're left with.
The only thing to talk about last night is that Aaron Boone got outmanaged again by the guy who was the bench coach for the Yankees for how many years, and they let somebody who was in the organization once again. They did the same thing with Rob Thompson. They let Carlos Mendoza's tenure with the Mets is still young, but he turned around a ship after a very bad start. He's clearly shown he can do more with less because the Mets roster isn't the greatest, but he's put guys in the right spots to succeed. He managed those 4 games against the Yankees perfectly, started lefties in all of them. I think the Yankees scored a grand total of 4 runs against the 4 lefty starters. And it was over 16 or 17 innings. He did not pitch Luis Severino against the Yankees because he knew that probably wouldn't end well. It would put the Mets in a precarious situation where they would be stuck regretting it, or it would put a lot of pressure on Sevy, who's been unable to handle pressure over the last 5 years, in case you haven't noticed.
Yep.
And then you have Aaron Boone, who tries to play the lefty matchup by batting Jahmai Jones in the leadoff spot on Tuesday and J.D. Davis in the cleanup spot. So Aaron Judge is not protected. Juan Soto is not protected. They both get on base 5 times. They don't score a single run in that one. Then he uses lefty bullpen arms against a team that can't hit lefties. Makes his lineups perfectly catered to take on Garrett Cole. For the second time this season, in a 4-game span, Aaron Boone started Garrett Cole against the Mets. Garrett Cole is terrible against the Mets. I did not want to say anything before Tuesday because I wanted to be positive, but going into the game, I said, why is he starting? In my head, I said, why is he starting against his team again? Why? They did it to him last month when it was his second start coming off an elbow injury where he was out 2.5 months. He got shelled at Citi Field. Why are we doing it again? You can easily set him up for Fenway. You could have, I don't know what the other options would have been, but you should have worked to avoid this scenario because you knew it was going to happen again. And guess what it did? 6 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Not good. Don't know what it is. Don't know why it happens, but that's the reality. And Aaron Boone just has no clue what he's doing.
Here's Fenway too. Garrett Cole at Fenway.
Look, at Fenway.
I would rather he not. If he's going to, I'd rather him pitch around Devers. But here's your at Fenway trio: Nestor Cortez, who sucks on the road, and the Red Sox lineup is built to beat left-handed starters usually, but not this year for whatever reason. They've struggled against lefties. So fingers crossed. They just got beat by Austin Gomber. Hey, you never know, but doesn't exactly bode well for Nestor Cortez. Marcus Stroman on Saturday, Carlos Rodon on Sunday. Again, Carlos Rodon somehow the hottest Yankee starter based on his most recent appearance, but not exactly the trio I'd want at Fenway Park. You're in kind of desperation mode there. Then you go to Philly and you're facing their 3 best pitchers. So lovely all around. The Mets lineup stacked with role players. Stacked. They not uber talents, but Tyrone Taylor, I know exactly what he's doing. Jose Iglesias, I know exactly what he's doing. It's they've got superstars. They've got Lindor, but they've also got pieces that I know they can rely on in moments that require it. And the Yankees, when they're forced to go to their deeper bench, are going with Jahmai Jones and J.D. Davis. And that's not even shade at Jahmai Jones. It's just like you're coming off Monday's game where you somehow win 9-1. Juan Soto carries you. And you're going into Tuesday's game saying, Austin Wells in the cleanup spot's working. He's not starting today. Ben Rice has been struggling a little bit lately, but he's still one of our best 4 or 5 hitters, depending on how hot Anthony Volpe is. He's not starting today. Tommy Lasorda, I believe it was, once said that every team is going to win 60 games and every team is going to lose 60 games. Mm-hmm. And it's what you do with the 42 in the middle to make the difference in your season. Now, saying every team's going to win 60 games, he must not have ever seen the 2024 White Sox. But for the most part, it's true. You've got games you are going to lose. You've got games you are going to win, like Monday when Rodon shoves and the offense pops off and that game was never in doubt. But then you've got games in the margins, and nobody does a worse job at preparing his team for games in the margins than Aaron Boone. We've seen it on Sunday Night Baseball in numerous ESPN showcases. We've seen it in playoff games. We've seen it in the heat of so many moments in hostile environments in Fenway Park, etc., when the lights are bright in the 3rd game in the 9th inning at Camden Yards last week, with a chance to sweep a series, go into the All-Star break feeling good. Instead, we go into the All-Star break feeling horrible because 2 players couldn't figure out a hop and a route. It's what Aaron Boone teams do. And I would go as far as to say that Tuesday's game in the Subway Series wasn't even one of those 42 games in the middle. It was one of those 60 wins because the New York Mets had no bullpen. The New York Mets were running into outs on the base paths. The New York Mets were going to have to rely on Jake Diekman to close in a tight game. So as long as the Yankees could get that game to a save situation, that is a walk-off waiting to happen. He's got a 5.5 ERA in the season. He's been worth negative WAR, and lately it's been worse. His ERA recently has been closer to 8, I believe, in his past. I'm not sure what stretch of games it was, but they cited it when he came in. And what did he do? Breeze through not just the lineup, but the heart of the lineup. He walked Soto, who hurt his hand in the at-bat prior. It might as well have been a decoy, setting it up for an Aaron Judge walk-off. If Aaron Judge was ever going to come through in a late and close scenario, it was that one. But of course, he did not. He struck out. He struck out looking. He gave us the walking back to the dugout grimace that he always gives us. Plate appearances in the 7th inning or later this year with the Yankees tied ahead by 1 with the tying run at least on deck. Judge hitting .216 with a .322 OBP, .431 slug. If they're up by 4 or more, .325, .447, .662. These are just the facts. Mm-hmm. I don't think Aaron Judge is a problem. I don't think the Yankees should get rid of Aaron Judge. But a lot of people say, what are the constants with this team? The constants are Aaron Boone. The man who led them from, who took over after an unexpectedly early peak in 2017, took over in 2018, and proceeded to be the second best team in the American League, but get pantsed by your number 1 rival, be a surprisingly fun team in 2019, just barraged by injuries, and then sign Garrett Cole and not reinforce the major league roster around him as necessary for 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24. That lies on Brian Cashman, also a constant. That lies on Aaron Boone for sure, a constant who has been there through every season that has started off hot and gotten disappointing, or started off disappointing and remained disappointing. But Aaron Judge and some of that clubhouse's DNA needs a kick in the pants as well. We thought it would be Verdugo. Unfortunately, he can't perform. So a message being delivered by Alex Verdugo right now is flat out useless. But I want to make sure that the incubator is as strong as it can be. It's on Boone, it's on Cashman, and it's on every other player who's been there the whole way, including Judge. They're better off with Judge. This isn't targeting Aaron Judge, but it's just to say that there's something rotten in every corner of the clubhouse right now.
It's just the worst combination of it all, right? You have Brian Cashman, who is definitely a Hall of Fame exec. I know that people don't take that lightly. They like to argue it, but the fact of the matter it is, I think he should have probably done more with the Hall of Fame executive career, but it is what it is. He's lasted this long in a big market. The Yankees have largely been successful, but over the last, I don't know, since what, 2013, when they made the free agency splash that year, just hasn't been enough. And for the amount of money that he's working with, the luxury of working with one of the 2 biggest payrolls in the sport has not gotten enough. 2, Aaron Boone does not do more with less. He doesn't do more with more. He does less with more. So if you're presenting him with less than what he needs in terms of whatever this depth is on this team, he's not going to do a good job with it, as evidenced by what he did over the last couple series with these lineups, with the construction of how he put everything together. The messaging is poor. I mean, he said it again last night. It's right in front of us. He said it again. Don't know how many times he's going to keep saying it.
It's crazy.
And while he's not wrong, there needs to be a different rallying cry, because we've been now saying this for 3 years, and the team has gotten progressively worse. The team has gotten progressively worse under his watch since 2019. So to continue with these platitudes, lying to the fans in terms of, stuff with DJ LeMahieu or stuff with injuries, or telling us things that we're not seeing that we're seeing, it's awful for the messaging, the vibes, and the trust in the fan base. If you don't have trust from the fan base, then how can everything be aligned and feel good? And then you have the clubhouse. Don't know what's wrong with it. Aaron Judge has not been clutch. Bad against the Red Sox, whatever against the Mets. We've seen far too many big moments where he's failed to come through. I love Aaron Judge. I'm glad that he's here. I hope that he stays. He needs a more career-defining moment that gets him out of the doldrums of not being able to perform in these tight spots. I know it's not easy, but it's a lot more failure than it is, I guess. Well, it's always going to be a lot more failure, but it's heavily lopsided failure versus success. And everybody's taken notice of it. The general baseball landscape has seen that it's gone on. There's a lot of commentary on social media about it. You obviously don't dive into the extremists who are talking about how he's not worth his contract, or he's not a franchise player or whatever, based on just him being able to perform in the clutch. But something's got to give here. So it's a really bad combination of all of that. And nobody seems to be stepping up. I mean, Cashman did his best job to step up in terms of getting the Yankees what they've needed. But look back, we didn't like the Verdugo acquisition. We lived with it because he was here. There was nothing we could do. We could have yelled as much as we wanted from January until April to get him off the roster. He was not getting off the roster. It was just the way it was. We didn't really want Marcus Stroman either, but he arrived. He had a positive attitude. He kind of turned everything around, and we were for it. What are we going to do? Complain about it all year? But now things have reached a point where it's like, what are you doing? We warned about Carlos Mendoza walking in the offseason right to the Mets. We argued that you could have made the switch after what happened last year. Aaron Boone arguably should have been dismissed after last year. And now when you're looking at the numbers, like Alex Verdugo has the same stats as all of the unproductive left fielders that the Yankees have had since 2020 or whatever. I don't know if that's a coincidence. I just don't know. How many players are going to come through that door from 2020 to 2024 and suck the equal amount? Aaron Boone's not a motivator. We've heard many stories of Carlos Mendoza being a motivator, getting on guys for not hustling, getting on guys for not having their head in the game, lacking fundamentals or whatever it is. Gleyber Torres talked about it in the Subway Series at Citi Field.
And look who's lacking fundamentals and not hustling this year in the Yankees locker room.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's been doing it for a while, but this year it arguably reached ahead with, again, 7th MLB season, can't be doing it. But nonetheless, all this stuff has converged. We want the Yankees to do something. We don't know what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to do much. That's my take. I don't know what your take is, but we do have some rumblings on the trade deadline front. Let's get through it, because we're not recapping the Subway Series.
No.
They suck. They got their asses kicked. The Mets deserved it. I still want to punch Mets fans in the face. It's fine. I'll get over it, but we got to move on and figure it out.
Yeah, Mets went out there and took it. They won a coin flip game, and then they won another battering ram game, 3 blowouts and a tight one. So good for the Mets. They're hot right. Of course, the Yankees, though, could not face the Mets until they heated up. The Mets were a disaster in May. We couldn't face them then. We had to wait until they got hot and gelled, of course. But yeah, let's talk deadline, because I look, if they don't do a lot, if they rely on Stanton Dominguez and John Birdie,
they're gonna,
and Scott Efros and Lou Trevino, then I'm gonna really sit back and laugh. We're gonna have ourselves a hell of a show.
What are you actually gonna do?
I don't know. I mean, we probably have to move the show to Wednesday, right? So that we can react. So its deadline is Tuesday night at 6. If they really just sit here and Keenan Middleton us, it's going to be an all-timer. Because last year when they had sellable pieces, and instead just added an okay reliever was an all-timer. 2020, in retrospect, you have to give them a little bit of forgiveness because that was just such an odd year. Like the trade deadline came 2 weeks into the 60-game season, but still could have used some reinforcements and got none. But I don't really blame them for standing pat there. They called Davey Garcia. He's good for the rest of the year.
Remember, people were like mad about teams making trades because they're like, you're really going to move a player while COVID's happening. And it's like, they're traveling anyway.
Yeah. No, they weren't leaving their homes to do anything unless there was.
How dare you trade somebody during a pandemic? It's like they're playing. We started playing. I don't know. Maybe we shouldn't have played.
I might if the Yankees don't make any trades this year, though. I'm going to say the same thing. Like Brian Cashman's actually a saint for not trading players during a pandemic. You ever think about that? It's like it's 4 years later. It's like, yeah, cases are on the uptick though. So credit to Brian Cashman, the only magnanimous GM. But yeah, the latest deadline move. Look, all things considered, I think there's like one name that's been connected to the Yankees so far that gives me two names that have been connected to the Yankees that give me any kind of joy. I take Jack Flaherty in the rotation.
Sure.
And that was proposed in the Athletics roundup yesterday, though. Chris Kirshner said part of my ideal realistic deadline would be getting Jack Flaherty. But I haven't seen anybody actually say the Yankees and Tigers are talking. I've just seen Kirshner say it would be smart. And I would agree it would be. And does that get parlayed with a Nestor Cortez Jr. trade? Wouldn't rule it out, especially with Clark Schmidt coming back, meaning if they were to trade for Flaherty and get Schmidt and deal Cortez, they actually would be gaining a starter as opposed to 2022 when they traded Montgomery and brought in Montas and net zeroed and didn't gain anybody. It would be reasonable to do that. I would keep your eyes on that. And Jonathan India, who the Yapper John Morosi connected to the Yankees again today. The Yankees reportedly have interest, according to Jorge Castillo, I believe. Perfect fit, never chases, never whiffs, top of the league in walks, perfect on base, leadoff guy, hitting 270, 377 OBP, power, 17 homers last year, 21 in his rookie year, 8 this year. I mean, you change the lineup instantaneously if you add Jonathan India. But guess what? Price is going up because the Yankees and Mariners both want him. And the Reds don't have to trade him because, like every team in Major League Baseball, they're in the wild card race. They're 4 out. You want to really toss some seasoning salt in your open wound, too? They're 4 games out of the wild card, of the 3rd wild card, which means they'd be 7 out if the Yankees had swept them at Yankee Stadium instead of being swept by them. Isn't that
fun? It always comes back.
Isn't that fun? You've given the Reds life in the wild card chase. And if you hadn't, you could maybe be overpaying for Jonathan India. But again, you did. Your fault. I love that fit. But other than that, what do we got? Jazz Chisholm, who's been connected to the Yankees forever and is starring against the Orioles in this O's-Mariners series and upping his trade value. The Yankees are reportedly concerned about his fit in the clubhouse. Not the first time I've heard that he's a strange clubhouse guy, but the Yankees were not concerned about Aroldis Chapman and Jimmy Cordero and Domingo Germán. You want to talk about ripping up the clubhouse? Domingo Germán did it physically last year. He tore apart pieces of the clubhouse, and they kept him on the roster forever. So concerns, they've harbored plenty of concerning clubhouse personalities in years past. I would say Jazz, not a player I'm particularly interested in, but there's definitely a chance he's a guy who ignites under the playoff spotlight as opposed to fizzles. He's also the kind of guy that if somebody strikes him out in a playoff game, they're going to have a lot of fun with that because I think people don't like him that much across the league. John Morosi also, Mike Tauchman, Nico Horner. Yikes and a half. You want to run it back with Mike Tauchman? Is that worse than doing nothing at all? And Rich Hill, the Yankees and Dodgers have interest in bringing back Rich Hill. He's been having a pretty good year, 0 ERA, because he hasn't thrown a pitch. He's not playing. He's 44 years old. So how about that? The problem with the trade deadline is the Yankees have 5 holes and there are almost no perfect solutions. And the names they're connected to only reinforce that because I'm not interested in basically anybody listed. Isaac Paredes, not really a fit for Yankee Stadium, controlled through 2027, really expensive, and that's like the best option.
Yeah, and again, folks, they need hitting first and foremost. The pitching is doing enough. You cannot have an ace pitching staff from top to bottom. You need pitching that keeps you in the game. I would say outside of Carlos Rodon's first inning blowups, you have 82% of the time the starting staff is giving you a chance. What are the two?
That's a real number, 82%.
Yeah.
I think that's official.
What have the two issues been? It's been Nestor's blow-ups here and there, which have been once every 3 starts, and then Carlos Rodon's first inning woes, which had that little stretch. You don't know when they're going to come back, though, so that's why it's a little nerve-wracking. But I would support a Jack Flaherty move. I would assume that would be on the cheaper side because it's contract year. He's making a decent amount of money, too. And for the position players, that's where they need to make most of the changes. I'll say it again. 2 out of the 3 of Alex Verdugo, Gleyber Torres, don't care how good he's hitting right now, and DJ LeMahieu need to be gone or de-emphasized. And that goes without saying. Jahmai Jones, J.D. Davis off this roster next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. Off, gone. I don't know what else. I don't know what else. Like there's no need to twist yourself into a pretzel over this. The bad players or the underperforming players need to go. The arbitrary depth pieces need to go. We cannot be occupied. The DH spot, when Giancarlo Stanton went down, was supposed to create flexibility, and it was supposed to get players off their feet. And I understand Aaron Boone has used that a little bit for Judge in center field, but how many times have we seen J.D. Davis in the DH spot? Why have we seen Jahmai Jones in the DH spot at all? Once. Should have never seen it. It's supposed to make the lineup more flexible. It's supposed to allow you to move pieces around. We complain about it all the time because Giancarlo Stanton is locked in there because he can't play defense and they're nervous about him getting injured. Great. Now he goes down for 5 weeks and there is no solution. There's nothing. I understand we did sit here and we said, you know what, J.D. Davis, not a bad acquisition. Actually, some intent here. You can use him at first and third. There's at least a way to plug him in. But again, hasn't been used properly. Don't know if that's Aaron Boone's fault. Feels like it is. Don't know if it's the front office forcing Aaron Boone to do something. There's a gnat right in front of me. Mm-hmm. Either way, it's all bad. So you need to get actual major league players in the door at this deadline. I don't know who it would be. You chatted about Jesse Winker a little bit. I kind of like that. That would give you the ability to just get rid of Verdugo. Mm-hmm. Someone will take Verdugo. Someone will take Torres. I think that's really what will happen. You're not going to get much from him. You might get a lottery ticket prospect, which is fine, but frees up money, gets you something, allows you to make some changes. I was looking around, like if the Cardinals decide to sell, would they move Alec Burleson? Mm-hmm. I don't know. It could be interesting, but
I was sending Nestor to the Cardinals and a Montgomery Redux, Tommy Edman coming back from injury, Brendan Donovan. I mean, again, Edman coming back from an ankle injury akin to Bader in the walking boot. It's almost too similar to happen, but I'm looking at the Cardinals.
Yeah. I don't know what Nico Horner's popped up a little bit. I don't know how much he's going to cost. He's got that 3-year, $35 million extension he signed before last season. I don't know how much the Cubs are going to tear down. I know they said they're going to look towards 2025 and 2026, but to me, that would mean try to get rid of Cody Bellinger.
Yeah,
right?
I was gonna say this smells like Cody Bellinger to the Yankees in the surprise move. Like, remember how you felt when they got Pudge Rodriguez in 2008? You were just like, what in the hell? Like, who was the, what? Yeah. Like, a past prime doesn't even begin to describe it. Cody Bellinger not quite so past his prime, but it would be. He's been rumored to be a Yankee for 5 years, and for them to just randomly decide to pick him up at his most expensive and worst would be very Yankees, as would they're rumored to be discussed. Let's battle it out with the Red Sox for Jameson Taillon. I like Jameson Taillon, but he makes $18 million each of the next 2 years, and the Yankees before the 2023 season said $68 million for 4 years, too rich for our blood. Let's let J-Mo take that deal in Chicago. Godspeed. Go forth and prosper. And then he did prosper. He battled a few injuries, but he was one of the worst pitchers in baseball to start 2023, rebounded, beat up the Yankees at Yankee Stadium during one of their offensive slumbers, then has been great this year. And now the Yankees are suddenly willing to pay $18 million a year on the back end of that contract. They missed out on the front end. And now as he ages, they're like, that price is tolerable now. Give me a fucking break.
Yeah, that's it. There's so much imperfection here, and it's a bit of an issue, but you look at the Cubs and you're like, they'll probably try to get rid of Kyle Hendricks, Cody Bellinger, Drew Smyly, which could be a fit. He's been pitching well out of the bullpen. I don't know. He's a lefty too, so that could help. There's Hector Neris. They're not going to need him. David Bodie, he's with the major league roster, but he's not really playing. Here's a semi-hot take.
Mm-hmm.
What if they traded for Dansby Swanson?
Very hot.
Shift Volpe to second, get rid of Torres. I don't know. They're not going to do it, but it's something to think about if you want to shake things up. I know Swanson hasn't been having the best year ever, but it seems like the Cubs are just in a bit of a rotten situation at the moment. I don't know exactly what's been going on with them. Haven't been watching them a whole lot. I've really only made time to just watch Imanaga starts, but yeah, and then you look at these other teams and like these holding patterns and you wonder what might happen. Will the Rays actually trade in division, and what makes it like maybe Randy Arozarena, get rid of Verdugo, pay the price for Arozarena. I like that could be a move.
They would be so good instantly in left field if they acquired Randy Arozarena.
It would be a huge upgrade. You look at the Rangers, 3 games out of the division, but sub 500, kind of not really getting on a roll. Like, yeah, they're beating up on the White Sox, but you need to see better progress than that. I'm not sure what the front office is thinking, but they have pieces. Could go for Eovaldi, could go not go for Andrew Heaney, but they have guys. Nationals, I don't think have a whole lot to sell outside of Winker, right? Like they're hanging around.
You want Lane Thomas, you can get Lane Thomas.
That's true, yeah. That Lane Thomas could be a good one. Cardinals 6 games back of the division. It looks like the Cardinals and the Pirates are probably going to remain in it because they're close to the wild card spots. Giants have a few interesting pieces, but there was chatter that they might buy. I don't know if Farhan Zaidi's last stand there. He's got to probably do something. The Marlins have nobody that I care about. I don't really want Tanner Scott. I know people have been talking about him, but the ship sailed. We could have gotten Tanner Scott in the offseason. We opted not to. Now the price went up. Don't want to pay that price. Just don't. Simply don't. Yankees have Ian Hamilton and Scott Ifrost is performing poorly, as you wrote about today. But yep. Ian Hamilton's on the way back. Nick Birdie's on the way back. So the bullpen reinforcements are coming. So I would rank it right now. You need 2 brand new starters in this lineup, position players in the lineup. Then you need 2 bullpen arms and you need 1 starter. You could assume at least one of those will be a package deal. A couple of the other ones will be one-offs. Do the Tigers have any relievers we could take? I haven't even looked at them.
Andrew Chafin, if you want to pay a little price.
Is price on contract or price in...
Price on contract. He's actually he's down in value. It's a $4.75 million deal. It matches up nicely with Nestor's money, which is $3.95 for the year. So basically prorated. Chafin a little bit more expensive. 3.38 ERA and the FIP is down at 2.60. The whip is elevated for some reason, but I guess he's just a guy who clogs the bases and gets out of it. He's been pretty good this year and apparently is underperforming. So maybe that's one to unlock.
Shelby Miller with a sub 0.9 whip.
Yeah.
I'll take that.
Got my eyes on that too.
I'll take that. You work out a little combo deal here for Flaherty and for one of those relievers. Done. You go to the Nationals, you get Winker or Lane Thomas, and they had somebody interesting in their bullpen too.
Kyle Finnegan.
Kyle Finnegan.
You've got Tigers guys too, like Carson Kelly behind the plate is available. You want to reinforce your catching tandem if Trevino's out. Andy Ibanez is very controllable, but he hits 150 against righties and 383 with a 1.033 OPS against lefties. So that's something the Yankees lack. That's basically what the Mets did yesterday. Loading the lineup against Garrett Cole. Like, if the Mets are going to throw Sean Manaea at you, it'd be nice to have an Andy Ibanez who hits 400 against lefties instead of a Jahmai Jones who's just like better against lefties than Ben Rice as a rookie, I guess, but not very intentional.
Yeah, and they're probably going to try and sell high on Dylan Floro, the Nationals.
The Marlins have all these arms who vary in levels of controllability. AJ Puck got next year. Andrew Nardi has like 3.5 years. There are plenty of options in Miami that aren't Tanner Scott. But look, if the scariest part is if the Yankees are going to succeed at this deadline, Brian Cashman's going to have to do some digging. The successful deadline is not going to be, look, we got the Cubs to give us Cody Bellinger. It's going to be, look, we identified the right Marlins reliever and the right Tigers reliever, and we paid a moderate price for a rental in Jack Flaherty, and we found the right bat, whether it's overpaying for Paredes or slightly underpaying for Brandon Lau, or getting Jesse Winker at a discount and then realizing, oh wait, he has like a 120 WRC plus and he's a lefty bat. Like, it's going to be somebody who makes a savvy move rather than makes an obvious move. If you're striking if you're striking for Garrett Crochet, who I guess maybe needs an extension to pitch in the playoffs this year, then congrats, you overpaid for a guy. We're not sure what the end of the season looks like. Yeah. And if you overpaid for Cody Bellinger, congrats. I guess there's potential there, but how much scouting did you really do? Whoever wins this deadline is going to be whoever gets the right arms in their pitching factory and targets the right mid-tier hitter at a moderate price.
And I will say, Cashman? No. Yeah, I think Cashman's good at that, at least identifying that. He never overpays at the deadline. He's not really he's not involved with the hoopla with the teams that are guaranteed to be selling. Like, you hear about Mason Miller, you hear about Luis Robert Jr., you hear about Garrett Crochet. Like, those are the top names where it's, oh, these teams are obviously selling. You could get their best player if you want. No, everybody else is going to be lining up for that. All those teams know what they can get for those guys. Get out of that. Get out of it. You don't want the flashier names here. We have enough flashy names on this team. Stuff like that adds more pressure, adds more expectation, and the delivery is never commensurate with it. Get these guys at the margins and just, again, league average bats. That's it. 102. Give me a fucking 102 OPS plus, not named Jazz Chisholm. Mm-hmm. Two of those guys. That's all I need. Two of those guys in the lineup, one at second base or third base, one in the outfield. At this point, Verdugo, it's just not going to work. He's not a long-term piece. I don't know what went sour with the vibes and the Dogs atmosphere, but it's dead. It's dead and it's gone. It's not going to get revived. There needs to be some sort of a cleaning house. I know Judge advocated for him, but yeah, it's they gotta get guys who just play the game. And I know that sounds so fucking stupid, but no, I watched the first episode of the Pete Rose documentary on HBO last night, and it's crazy. Like, guys used to just hit the ball and hustle. And I sound like a 60-year-old, but it should be a little bit easier than how we've made out the modern game to be. Now everything's advanced analytics, which we do love. We love advanced analytics. We love Launch Angle. We love Baseball Savant. Those pages are great. Love reading them. Love parsing through to see where the stats make sense. But can we just have a handful of guys on the team that just play baseball? They just show up. They wear their socks kind of high. They use the dirt as like their batting glove, and then they just like poke the ball in the left field. One or two of those. I'm not asking for a whole lineup of them. And then they steal second base, and then they try to take second on an aggressive turn from first, and they're tagging up aggressively from third to get home. Shit like that. Just give me some of that, please. That's it. That's all I want.
A lot of dog shirts at Goodwill. Well, we're going to sign off a little bit early today. It's a shame we didn't get to have fun with the Red Sox losing 20-7 yesterday to the Colorado Rockies because we shat the bed too. And then they also extended Alex Cora. Congrats to Red Sox fans again. You got a miracle out of nowhere. Alex Cora said in mid-June he wasn't even going to consider a contract extension before the season ended. And then
a month ago
signed one in mid-July. And every Red Sox reporter said, we didn't even see this coming. You never do, but it always happens to you, doesn't it? If the Yankees really wanted to be the evil empire, the only real move they had in their pocket this offseason was to extend Juan Soto and also go get Alex Cora for a sum that the Red Sox were unwilling to pay. If the Red Sox don't care about cheating, he was fired because he cheated in 2017 and 2018. By the way.
Really?
If they don't care about cheating, then why should you? But apparently they really don't care about cheating, and he's back now. So can't do that. But yeah, Cal Quantrill, if you really want to spark up the rivalry, I would go ahead and maybe get him at the deadline. Not only does he have the sinker profile that the Yankees pitching lab seems to like, but he also turned to Reese McGuire yesterday and said, you J.O. in a parking lot, you F. And he was right. Reese McGuire did J.O. in a parking lot. It's really tough. Again, a good tweet, I think it was Grant Brisbee, is like, there's no coming back from that. And there is coming back from that unless you did it. In which case, if you did it, there's really no comeback. You just have to be like, yeah, I did do that crime. So shout out to Cal Quantrill, hopefully future Yankee.
What was that about?
What? Why
did he
do it?
Yeah. No, Reese did it because he had an odd urge at the time, I guess. But
Yeah.
Cal Quantrill to start yelling at him about
It's very look. It's savage. I mean, is what it is. I don't know why it happened, but let's see Cal Quantrill in the Bronx. Would love to see it, and we'd love to join you again on Monday at 2:00 Eastern with maybe a move in our pockets. Because if they're not going to make a move on this off day, you got Friday, you got Saturday, you got Sunday. The deadline is Tuesday night. The sooner you get players in your system to juice this up, the better. Because who wants to watch these Yankees play a weekend series at Fenway Park right now? Certainly not me. Sure as hell not me. Are these Red Sox unbeatable? No, the Rockies just beat them 20-7 yesterday. They have lost 5 out of 6 since the All-Star break. But are they better than you? Are they going to be fired up on a Friday night if I face Nestor Cortez? Yup. So get some new blood in the mix. I'm Adam Weinrib. You can find me on Twitter if you want to yell at me about my opinions. You could talk to us both at Yanks Go Yard FS. Thomas Carannante, where can the people find you?
Yell at me. Bring it on. At Tommy's_takes. Yeah. It just is what it is, man. We're here. We're waiting. Not feeling great about it. The last few deadlines, even when they tried, ended up blowing up in their faces. But we're still going to be here every step of the way. Informing, complaining, celebrating. Unlikely, but I'd hope so.
Yeah, maybe.
You can find us at the official Yanks Go Yard Twitter account at Yanks Go Yard FS. We are at yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the written content is. We're going to be here with you on Monday, right? And then we'll probably do something on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Probably got to do something on Tuesday, whether it's Tuesday night or whether we wake you up early on Wednesday, if we need that extra day to let stuff process. But in the meantime, please subscribe and like the YouTube channel, Yanks Go Yard. The code for DraftKings, promo code, Yanks Go Yard, $150 in bonus bets if you place a $5 bet as a first-time user. And weekend coming, series against the Red Sox. Then we start a series against the Phillies. Then it's the trade deadline. Enjoy the off day. I know it's going to be hard. Last few games were disgusting, made you feel like ass, but this is part of what you signed up for. 162 games of the same bullshit, I guess, for 5 years. We're hoping it turns around. Aaron Boone says it's going to turn around. It's right in front of us, but I have seen no evidence of that in watching a lot of baseball this year. I don't know what you guys think, but feel free to sound off. Hit us up. Let's keep talking. In the meantime, have a good weekend. We'll talk to you again on Monday. We'll talk to you a few times next week, so have a good one.
Best off day ever, though. No Yankees baseball. We'll catch everybody on Monday to talk up what happened over the weekend and see if we're actually going to recap it or if we're just going to continue to look forward because we don't want to talk about it. One of the two, for sure. Until then,